Chapter 11. Exit Stage Left. Ask anyone who has successfully exited a business and he'll tell you, you can't time exits. Exits don't require strategy. Building strong businesses does. Since moving out of the media space at the end of 2013, I've been approached by a lot of people who say, I'd just like to chat with you regarding exits. I didn't think much of the request the first time, but after the fourth or fifth call, I wondered, am I really that person? Why do they think I know so much about exits? Sure, over the years, various opportunities for unlocking value or exiting have presented themselves. Each afforded me an opportunity to look at where the business was, where I wanted it to be, and recalibrate based on the available information. The part that surprises a lot of people, and they often don't believe this, is that each of those exits was entirely unplanned. In my entrepreneurial journey, I have never started any business with an exit in mind. If a business were into its 30th year and still going strong, I'd be happy so long as I could continue to create, innovate, and grow in that space. Some entrepreneurs readily jump from one cool idea to the next, though the media tends to exaggerate the frequency of rare successes and ignore the very common crashes out of the starting gate. Other entrepreneurs hold on for dear life, seeing exits as sign of failures or, worse yet, disloyalty to the business a family has built over generations. Every business person views exits in his own unique way. None has the foresight to predict them with any accuracy. As an entrepreneur embarking on your journey, you're going to be faced with one burning question the minute your company is no longer 100% yours. Where's the exit? Let's clarify three things. First, most observers see exits as akin to abandoning a business. Not true. Once faced with the option or probability of an exit, you make a decision only after taking into account what's best for the company, the stakeholders, and your team. What may be an exit for you is only a transition for the company, brand, and business as it moves forward, hopefully to the next level of growth. Of course, some realignments may occur during the process of exiting, but you can think of these primarily as functions of passing the baton. Second, providing an exit for your investors and partners does not always imply an exit for you. Exits don't always unlock value. In fact, in most cases, quite the contrary. Your obligation as a leader is to create a liquidity event for your stakeholders at the appropriate time. As the founder, you can create more value if you're willing to stay on and build a great company, team, brand, and business for the long term. As the founder, you can create more value if you're willing to stay on and build a great company, team, brand, and business for the long term, not for interim investor benchmarks, which are not only distractions but flawed business strategies. Third, at the time of exit, clear and open communication with your entire team and colleagues is critical. Proper communication requires meticulous planning and must come with integrity, clarity, and good timing. And these are things people appreciate. For me, the communication has always been a vital part of a smooth transition. It helps retain the company's values and culture going forward. People want to hear it straight so they can make their own independent calls. They appreciate the care, concern, and planning that go into ensuring a smooth transition. When entrepreneurs build businesses focused around exit strategies rather than ensuring the day-to-day health of the company, the decisions that keep a business vibrant, agile, and on track become more difficult to make and execute. I've sat through board meetings where exits are pitched as ways of creating value. 2 years from now, this will happen. 3 years from now, this. And then we'll be ready to... I can now say with certainty that every one of those presentations has been a piece of fiction. The bottom line? You can't time exits. Ask all those who have actually successfully exited a business. They'll all say the same thing. It was never planned, nor was it my intent at that time. I can bet that in 95% of the successful exits, the outcome for both the incoming investor and the outgoing founder has been win-win, with the exit being driven by the buyer. If you're building your business just to build a business, you'll be presented with multiple opportunities to exit at the right time, if that's what you choose to do. Simple as that. World over, just 20 years ago, entrepreneurs didn't create businesses with an eye towards selling or exiting them in 3 years. Today's internet culture, instant global communication, online social apps, daily examples of unthinkable wealth posted on blogs and in the media has stirred the imagination of a new generation of energetic, ambitious entrepreneurs. They follow the examples of those successful people, the team that built a billion-dollar business in 18 months, the 25-year-old college dropout who overnight turned his mother's basement into the hub of an international social networking site, the college kid who developed a GPS app from his dorm room. We're seduced by the stereotypes associated with this rare breed. Their accomplishments are evangelized, as if such rapid success is commonplace, always pre-planned and as simple as opening a Twitter account. Nothing could be further from the truth. Ask any of those visionaries, entrepreneurs and leaders, and they'll tell you that the challenges and sacrifices to get to the point of being courted by deep-pocket suitors were many, fraught with close calls and near misses at a time when success was anything but certain. But they persevered relentlessly, without any grand plan for a timed exit. What they always did right was to stay on track and build an exciting and valuable business, product, offering, or customer base. When I think about my exits from business, I recall how each took on a life of its own. As I mentioned earlier, I started out in the cable television space, deeply passionate about pioneering a business with a concept that could easily have been ahead of its time. As cable television mushroomed into a cottage industry, the competition increased. Transparency decreased. Because the space wasn't fully regulated, everyone made his own rules. Even though regulations can sometimes stifle growth in business, basic rules add a few necessary frameworks for a sector to thrive from healthy competition. By the 5th year of the cable business, I had a creeping feeling that we would have difficulty succeeding in such an unregulated environment. Because we hadn't taken any external money, we were under no obligation to get out. Seeking to distance myself from the day-to-day operations to gauge the pulse of the business, give it direction, and free up my time for other ventures, we brought in professional management. Even so, I knew within a year that cable TV wasn't the business I wanted to stay in for the long term. I don't even think I was mature enough as an entrepreneur then to consider the word exit. If somebody were to ask me what an exit was, I'd say the door out of a theater. But I was open to whatever opportunities presented themselves. I had 2 or 3 detailed discussions with my then father-in-law, who was also my senior partner and co-founder. He wanted to stay the course. I wanted out. By chance, the COO we'd appointed came to see me one day with the news that he had decided to move on. I sat him down for a heart-to-heart. "So, what's the plan?" I asked him. "Well, there's this large group from the south of India that is into holiday resorts and real estate," he said. "They want me to join them and start a cable business from the ground up and take it national." "I think you should go," I told him, "but I have a proposition for you. Why don't you speak to them and tell them that not only will you join them, but you can also buy out the existing business and get a head start on everyone?" The words just popped out, and with that, I had created an opportunity that was, by the looks of it, a win-win situation for all. The COO spoke to the people at his new organization, and the proposition made complete sense to them. Within 2 months, we'd hammered out a deal. 0 pre-planning. I didn't know the word. Come to think of it, that's the way a lot in business unfolds. Over my 25 years across various businesses, we've had many partners and investors who have also exited companies, but very rarely have I used an investment banker. To clarify, I think investment bankers are needed intermediaries in the ecosystem, but on my part, I've always found them fraught with conflicts of interest. In most cases, to show their perceived value add, they suddenly become the facilitators for and experts on everything in the room, and eventually the cause for lengthy and costly delays. If you're looking for investors or partners for the first time, an intermediary is a godsend who can open doors to people you can't reach. And from here on starts the conflict, in my personal view. Investment bankers are very well networked. That's their job. On most occasions, the potential investor is also the investment banker's past and future client. Hence, the conflict. The investment banker views his role as twofold: to gauge how far you're willing to bend as an entrepreneur, while at the same time understanding what the potential investor's fair ask is, making your best case for you and selling it to the potential partners. Having understood each one's threshold, the investment banker presents what, to his mind, is a win-win proposition. In reality, it's a complete and blatant conflict of interest. In my view, that's not how things get done. You hired an investment banker to make the best case for your company, not find the best proposal that he thinks is right and fair for both sides. I'm willing to bet a rupee that 95 times out of 100, the value that you and the incoming investor negotiate directly will be 10 to 20% higher than any offer you receive via the investment banker. If it's your first time in the world of external interaction, use an investment banker. If it's your first time in the world of external interaction, use an investment banker if you have to. But 1. Negotiate directly with the other side, keeping the banker in the loop. 2. For some specific points, fire off the banker's shoulder. And 3. Lead all discussions pertaining to timelines and take calls on all open matters. A fee just for the right introduction and not much more then is acceptable, but only for the first outing. If you open up and share all your expectations with the investment banker at the outset, chances are you've played out your hand, leaving little room for upsides. After all this, your business has to be its own magnet, and your existing partners and investors your best guide to the outside world. Otherwise, count on getting shortchanged again. Were there days when I would introspect, worry about whether I had exited too early, or if I could have done better or worse? Of course. But to what end? The same holds for entrepreneurs who fall in love with an idea so highly personalized and integral to their personal brand that the question of having it subsidized by somebody else seems incomprehensible. That's one of the trickiest aspects of handling exits in business. For instance, if I had the advantage of hindsight, which I don't, no one does, I would have kept the cable TV business intact, and we would have been the largest such operation in the country by far. Already established and poised to grow potentially over the next few years, if I had captured the first wave of broadcasting with UTV in 1992 and held on, or if I'd stayed the course with home shopping, or if I'd persisted in Southeast Asia and become a pan-Asian media company on a massive scale. If. I can reminisce all day about what might have been and grieve over how often I got things wrong. Sure. But if any one of those businesses had taken a downturn, there'd be no nostalgia. Only a nightmarish worst-case scenario. It's ridiculous to mourn any business in hindsight. Life and business are messy. Neither boils down to a spreadsheet nor foreshadows myriad unexpected and unforeseeable twists and turns. People look for perfection that doesn't exist, neat and tidy ways of creating and nurturing businesses that won't cause them discomfort, but will provide astronomical returns. Get real. Exits aren't about giving up. They're about seizing opportunities. If you think you're abandoning anything when you exit a business, you're fooling yourself and forgetting why you became an entrepreneur. In India today, one of the most contentious discussions on exits focuses on family businesses. Millions of family-run businesses, from modest to massive, form the backbone of India's ecosystem and are often the cause of exasperation for today's generation of entrepreneurs chosen to head decades-old legacies. Deciding the right time to exit a business or a part of a business that's been passed down from your great-grandfather through 4 generations can be every bit as difficult as any decision the CEO of a corporation makes. Even if you have the best interest of everyone in mind, you're probably concerned that the exit will reflect poorly on the family. After all, that business is a part of your history, a symbol of your standing in the community. First, understand that the decision is in your hands and your hands alone. If you go in with a pure heart, you'll do what's best for you, your family, and the business. Exit questions are bound to arise more often today when every decade or so the world changes 5 times over. Your grandfather had no idea what the world would look like 40 or 30 years or even 20 years down the line. Now you find yourself running a low-tech manufacturing business, a steel conglomerate, a trading or distribution operation, the neighborhood kirana store, a pharmacy, or a family restaurant. All sustainable businesses, but hardly the dynamic opportunity you had envisioned when you caught the entrepreneurial bug. In terms of viability, your family business could be an anachronism, or need a B2C element for real growth potential, or it could be an entity that throws up decent cash flow to make things comfortable for the family, but nothing more. Perhaps your business depends far too much on state and government regulation, and that's not your cup of tea. Or maybe it just doesn't make you want to jump out of bed every morning and get to work. In any of those cases, you could be a hero just by selling the business and getting fair value for your family. But the business came down through the generations, you think. How will it reflect on my family if I sold it? Ask yourself, how will it look 5 years from now if you're not completely passionate about continuing your family's legacy? How will you help your family if the business can't go to the next level because of a shrinking market, or even worse, on account of your lack of passion? How many other more exciting opportunities are you passing up to keep slogging, all for appearances? Life moves on, from manufacturing to service to technology to who knows what. When it comes to exits, do what's best for you and the business. Your family will thank you. The first time the public at large started to look at what we had done during an exit was with Hungama, the kids channel that started UTV's relationship with Disney. When we conceived the idea for the channel, nobody at the team said, "Hey, let's build the channel, get into the number 1 position, and sell it in 2 or 3 years." Nothing at all of that sort. In fact, Disney was an unsolicited proposition. As we built Hungama in India and Malaysia, where the channel was called Seria, the Malaysian broadcaster approached us to invest 26% into Hungama. We were ready to ink the contract when the media broke the story. The day after agreeing in principle to the 26% investment, I was in Los Angeles to meet Fox regarding the details of our co-production of the film Namesake, when I got a call from Andy Bird, the chairman of Disney International. Andy and I knew each other, having spoken together on panels at international broadcasting conventions over the past decade. Still, I was surprised to hear him at the other end. "I just read on the newswire that you're divesting 26% of Hungama," he said. Despite having been in the media and entertainment business for decades, I'm always amazed at how quickly news, good or bad, I'm always amazed at how quickly news, good and bad, travels. You know that we run our Disney channels in India. We've been following Hungama with a lot of interest. Great ideas and program. What do you think of selling the channel to us instead? My response was immediate. No. Why would we want to sell the channel? We were just looking for an investor, nothing more. And we're on to something good here. One of Andy's best qualities is his persistence. I knew I couldn't shake him off that easily. I'm calling from the LA airport and flying out. How about having a think on it over the next week and let's talk? When you're in LA next, come and meet us. He thought he was calling me in Mumbai. I'm actually in LA now, I said, savoring the coincidence. Super. Would you be willing to meet Kevin Mayer, our head of strategy, exchange views, see if something interests you? I appreciate the fact that you don't want to sell the channel. Just talk to him. See what he has to say. No strings attached. In my 2-hour conversation with Mir the next day, one thing led to another. Okay, so what will it take, he said, pushing the issue once we had got the pleasantries out of the way. Andy and he were birds of a feather, both persuasive to the core, which is why they were highly placed at a behemoth like Disney. The more Mir talked about Disney buying Hungama and building it into the Indian bouquet, the more I wondered if it could make sense for UTV. But I enjoyed the back and forth, and we struck it off in that first meeting. I'm candid and get straight to the point. Kevin, too, is a savvy, no-nonsense guy. That focused the discussion and opened us to all options. We like the UTV model. We're in India and we want to expand. Let's think of a broader relationship outside the sale of Hungama. Kevin said with a grin. He wanted roughly 15 days to pull together a proposal and get back to me, and requested us not to move forward with our present arrangement during that period. If we were to consummate the deal for the 26% with the Malaysian broadcaster, our dealings with Disney would become moot. We agreed and went our separate ways. My first responsibility was to update the Malaysian broadcaster, our partner and friend. They were disappointed at the turn of events, but ultimately supportive. They understood the big picture for us, and we assured them of our support for Seria. A fortnight after speaking with Andy Bird and meeting Kevin Mir, we got on a late-night India time to hear Disney's proposition for a clear financial offer to buy 100% of Hungama, with an additional 14% investment in UTV. We didn't need to wonder any longer why they were interested. Besides, for the first time, we understood what a deal with Disney would mean, both in the present and for the future of UTV. We made a popular kids channel, but it was a single channel, not a part of a bouquet. This potential investment was more of a strategy discussion for us, not about selling a channel, but about seeing the big picture. In the end, we got a strategic partner, resources from the sale of a channel, fresh equity in the company, and opportunities to scale our business overall. And with that, the deal was done. Except it almost never happened. Nothing is closed till it's closed. We all invest so many hours in documentation to ensure smooth and timely closure, but let's face it. If either side is uncomfortable with even the smallest detail, they can and will walk away. Nothing you can do about it. That's the reality, and I think it's fair. Don't take anything for granted. Case in point, at that 11 p.m. call, we had broadly agreed on a valuation. On that basis, I closed the door on our other proposal. Of course, what followed in the next 3 or 4 weeks was this. Disney began doing its financial and legal work, culminating in an all-party call to go through any points of contention or concern. To my mind, those raised on the call with Kevin and Disney weren't material to our deal. What followed was the beginning of a renegotiation that felt much less in keeping with the spirit of our earlier discussion. At that point, I called a halt, telling them that we didn't want to negotiate. We had agreed on an overall proposition in the right spirit and not negotiated, and so there was nothing material here to call for a new price discussion. In less than 10 seconds, 25 people from all over the world thanked each other for their time and hung up. On our side were my colleagues Ronald and Amit, respectively CFO and Head of Business Development and Strategy, and Zarina and I. Ronald and Amit, I learned much later, went out for more than one drink to work off what they thought was a brash and impulsive reaction on my part. Zarina and I drove off, discussing on the way home a fresh tomorrow with renewed vigor. I remember sleeping peacefully that night, thinking the chapter closed. The next afternoon, I picked up the phone to call Kevin, who had travelled overnight to London, to thank him for all his work and patience. I didn't want our relation to end as abruptly as the call had, even though I was at peace with our decision. Kevin and I got chatting again, and since we'd already struck up a good rapport and strong mutual respect, we kept talking. Before long, we were discussing our differing views and had brought the deal back on track. By the end of the call, we agreed to move forward with a fair resolution. So much for pre-planned exits. Even while telling the story now, I understand that it sounds like a pattern. How I sold my toothbrush business, pioneered cable TV and sold it, bought Vijay TV from Vijay Mallya, grew the business, brought in a strategic partner in Star TV, and divested. Started another channel and sold that 18 months later. But with the Hungama sale, we took advantage of an opportunity that was solely the result of our thinking ahead and envisioning a kids channel in Malaysia. No kids channel, no Malaysian partner, and their first proposal. If we hadn't been willing to get a 26% partner in, we would never have fielded Disney's offer to buy us out. If the team had said, let's start a kids channel, and in 3 years' time either Nickelodeon or Disney will buy it, we would have had an abject disaster on our hands. A channel conceived on what Disney or Nickelodeon wanted to see. More concerned about fulfilling someone else's vision than your own, we wouldn't have called it something as disruptive and insane as Hungama, which everyone at Disney found difficult to pronounce for almost a month. We'd have given the channel a Western name. We'd have gone for more Western programming instead of Japanese animation. And in the end, it simply wouldn't have been the channel we wanted. Hungama would have been one more face in an increasingly large crowd trying to integrate itself to the market by building a business in someone else's image. Even after the Hungama deal and what transpired with Disney many years later, I can't take credit for Disney's idea of finally acquiring all of UTV. The deal worked because Disney, a strategic partner, had its own establishment in India. We brainstormed a lot about the future of UTV and what we could do together over the next 10 years. Companies like Disney are forward-looking and great with 5, 10, and 15-year planning. So they were quite happy to include me in their discussions of what UTV and Disney could do respectively over the long term in India. We rarely set an agenda in these sessions. Over time, the more we discussed our future with Disney, the more apparent it became that we were two companies with parallel visions in a similar opportunity space. When we looked at the big picture, we knew we could work together. In the end, the waves collided. I take no credit for the deal. It was the result of dozens of talented people working hard to reach a common goal. What I do take pride in is the fact that over the years, each of the companies I've exited has gone from strength to strength, even after a deal has been struck. The cable startup created a massive industry, and the company is a part of a lasting legacy. The toothbrush business is in great hands and continues to service its multiple clients with top-notch technology. Vijay TV became the beacon for Star's regional language diversification plan, and the channel itself holds its own in a hyper-competitive market. Hungama for Disney became a game-changer overnight as a leader in the kids' genre. Later, Doraemon, the most successful show on Hungama, moved to the Disney Channel and made that channel number one. UTV's integration into the Walt Disney Company has been completed, and the combined entity derives scale, a diverse presence in the media landscape, and most importantly, a great team from both sides with an even stronger culture. It's a little early to say how the combined entity will build Disney's ambitions in India. The jury is out, and time will tell. But Disney takes the long view. In my first innings, right to the time I moved out of the media and entertainment industry, we pioneered a lot, built everything to last, and had our fair share of exits. In that period, we had investments from Warburg Pincus, Canadian pension fund La Caisse de Dupont et Placement de Quebec, called CDPQ, Indian majors like IL&FS, Japanese investors like Mitsui, Silicon Valley investors Walden and Draper, and strategics like News Corp, Fox, Disney, and Bloomberg. The list goes on. Given such experience, I should have an almost supernatural understanding of how, when, and why exits work, right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. To be honest, if I started a business today with an eye towards the exit, I wouldn't know where to start. I'd be hard-pressed to sit down and say, okay, now at least I've got my legs back under me and I know what's going on. I've lived the story, I've thrived from good exits, survived bad ones. Now perhaps I can draw some hard and fast rules from some of those experiences. Whether you're 23 and looking for your first entrepreneurial break, or a grizzled veteran transitioning from the workday world to fulfill your own dream, there's going to come a time in your entrepreneurial journey when you reach the crossroad of an exit and ask yourself, should I get off or should I stay on? The only thing my experiences taught me is that exits are about creating value and letting go when the need and opportunity arise. This might sound like a non-commitment, but a timely exit can be the best business decision an entrepreneur makes in the same way that a poorly timed exit can be the worst. Chapter Summary. Most exits are entirely unplanned. We do not have the foresight to predict them with accuracy. All of us view exits in our own unique way, but remember, exiting business is not abandoning it. In fact, it's more about passing the baton for future growth. If you are taking charge of your family business that has come down for generations, you need to ask yourself all the hard questions and do what is best for the business. Do not hang on to the legacy only for the sake of it. Your family will thank you for your resolve eventually. At the time of an exit sale, clear and open communication with the entire team is critical. Your job as a leader or entrepreneur is to build a strong team, brand, and long-term business strategy. Stop obsessing about exits.